So I'm in excruciating pain. I just try to make it to the bathroom, and oh boy, just from standing up in my excruciating pain. But the one that bothers me the most is I couldn't really speak. I'm still having trouble speaking, but I'm doing all right because I'm closing my eyes sitting down now. My arms are shaking though as I say each word, and I'm twitching pretty uncontrollably. Now, why do I have to suffer in this great way? Why can't I ever use a shelter? Why can't I work or make a living without getting hurt? Why do I keep on losing everything I earn, everything I work so hard for? It's because of another person's choices. Now, I'm going to explain this. Now, this is wrong. I shouldn't have to suffer greatly for somebody else's choices, but I do. And I am. And it can be stopped anytime this person wants to actually come forward with the truth. But they don't. They rather pretend like this is a fantasy. But it's not. I will die literally to my dying breath speaking the truth. They can twist up, they can make up stories, they can say they forget, but I will never forget. I will never forget. PTSD flashbacks are very, very hard to forget. So, what choices am I talking about? Well, we'll start off at the age of 5 to 7. My mother made the choice to try to give me extra drugs because she didn't want to watch whatever we were watching. I have no idea really why she gave me these extra pills this day at the age of 5 to 7. But she brought me to a hallway, had me swallow a bunch of pills. Then we went to watch Batman Mr. Freeze, and I experienced an overdose. So the first choice my mother made was to sneak pills or mess around with my pills. So after she realized that I lost my vision, I couldn't feel my body anymore, I could no longer speak, I couldn't stand, I'm panicking, dying, my breathing is slowing down, my mother goes and picks up the phone to call a doctor. Good choice. But as I pass out and as I go unconscious and my breathing slows down right next to my father, she hangs up the phone and says, "They don't know what they're talking about." Now, what was that about? I found out they told her to bring me to the emergency room right away. But my mother made the choice to leave me on a pile of newspapers to die because she wanted to avoid the responsibility of her actions. And my father made the choice to allow her to behave this way. Okay, next one. My mother made the choice to destroy my accomplishments and try to make up stories to the doctors to establish mental illnesses that didn't exist. From the age of 5 all the way till the day she died, she was making up stories and mental illnesses to cover up her own actions. This was her choice. Like, for instance, I won a swimming medal in an orphanage, and I wanted to show my parents the swimming medal I won in the orphanage. It had my old initials on it. My mother turned that into "I'm a liar, I'm a thief. It must be an African American kid's medal, and I must have attachment disorder because there's a G instead of an N on the back of the medal." So she went into her own crazy fantasy land and started making up stories. She made a choice to make up stories and go into a fantasy, and my father made a choice to feed this fantasy. My father spent a lot of money feeding into my mother's fantasies and getting her more mentally ill, allowing her to behave in this manner. Then I make the choice at the doctor's office to come clean with what I know. The doctor goes, "Do you have any allergies or anything?" So I bring up how I lost my vision, and I bring up this terrifying night that I'm still feeling in my body. I'm sucking my skin to figure out why it feels different. My skin and body feel so much different. Now, there's many times where kids suck their body or do stuff, but in this example, I'm doing it because something's different here. When I sucked my skin before the overdose, or when I touched my skin, or when I had any feeling on my skin, it felt very, very different. Now, after this overdose, something's wrong. So I bring this up to the doctor. My mother makes a choice to lie. She says it's an allergy attack to the medication. Then the doctor goes, "What medications is that?" Then my mother lies again and goes, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, and never gives the information the doctor needs. Very bad choice. So now the doctor does not have a medication list, and I'm still taking a lot of these medications that my mother says I have an allergy to. So if I have such an allergy that caused this horrible reaction, why is my mother still playing around with these pills in my body? Very bad choice. So then I speak up to another doctor, and the school starts noticing. The school notices there's something very, very different and wrong with me. So they start suggesting like physical therapy, speech therapy, but my mother makes the choice of ballet, and then she makes the choice that she wants me to be moved to Texas. Then she makes the choice to try to convince me that I need to go to Texas. I don't know yes, no. I'm saying yes, no, yes, no. I don't know anything about Texas. My mom wants yes, and my dad says no. So I say no, and then I say yes, and then I say no, and then I say yes. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. But they continue to make the choice to put this decision on the child. The whole family depends on this one 5-year-old's decision. But really, it was my mother's decision because she's convincing me to go along with her decision. So we moved to Texas. Once again, my mother and father make a horrible, horrible decision. They moved me to Texas when I really needed help, and my mother wanted this to avoid responsibility. Another bad choice. And then my mother makes the bad choice of sending me up in the mountains in a cabin in New Mexico and only sees me 1 hour a month for 18 months. So these seizures and these things happening to me only once every 4 years I have a seizure, but all the time in the cold or during flashing lights or I'm falling to the ground, I'm shaking. When it gets a little chilly, I don't get up and I seem stubborn to move. Like you'll tell me, get up, we gotta go. And I'll say, no, I can't. And you'll say, get up, I'm gonna hit you. No, I can't move my legs. And then my mother smacks me and rips me out of there. So these things are very visual. They think I'm just being stubborn in the cold or something. I don't know what the fuck these idiots think. So they made more bad choices in New Mexico. Then when I come out of New Mexico, I tell them what happened in there. And they sue them, and they win, and they get money. Now they make the choice of recouping their losses. My father takes that money and sticks it in his own bank account to repay himself for the money he spent to make me abused. He spent so much money getting me, in the woods and torturing me that now he wants his money back. He says that, oh, that money wasn't to torture you. Yeah, it was. I told you right from the beginning that this was a bad place before I even started. Should have listened to your son. So you'll listen, and another bad choice. They'll listen to their son about moving across the country. But when I say, this place in the mountains is a bad idea, you guys only get to see me 1 hour a month. This is a bad idea. I have stuff going on with my body still. There's still problems, and you guys don't want to see me except for 1 hour a month. This is going to go bad. They don't listen to me, and they make a bad choice. Then they make another bad choice. Instead of bringing me back to Texas, where we've established some care, they bring me to Maine, where I have no schools. Remember, I've had no schools for 18 months. I've had no schools in Maine, and my mother made the bad choice of trying to have me withheld for another year for first grade. The teacher wanted me to go to second grade, but my mother told the teacher, no, I want him to redo first grade. So my mother made another bad choice that she wanted me to redo a grade I've already passed, that I did very well already. The teacher said, no, Zach's fine. He can go to second grade. And my mother argued and yelled and argued until the teacher withheld me. So that's another bad choice. And now I'm in Maine. I'm getting homeschooled, and my mother has no clue how to do it. My father is doing actually the teaching, and he's almost never there. The only learning I really had was when my father was present. That's the only time. And he wasn't even the teacher. He wasn't supposed to be, my mother was supposed to be do the teaching. But she wasn't capable of that. Her version was, why can't you get the answers? I'm leaving you at this book and I want to see the answers now. So then she leaves to go get a drink in the other room. And then she comes back and she's like, why don't I see any answers there? Because I don't know what to do. Well, you aren't trying. Stuff like this is how my mother behaved. You're not trying hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. Meanwhile, I have no teacher. I've had no classes for 18 months. I've literally been stuck in a cabin in New Mexico with no teacher as well. I've redid the same class, I'm in the same grade twice. I have no nervous system anymore. When I try to look at certain things, I get shocked in the back. I can't move my legs and arms properly at most times unless it's summer and it's really warm. Yeah, when it's really warm out, I do great. When it's like 90 degrees, I do amazing while everybody else is sweating to death. So, once again, another bad choice so that they can keep on avoiding responsibility and make their lives easier. Then they make the choice of buying a house in Chelmsford. They move me to Massachusetts. Now my mother's feeding into the doctors again. She's trying to get me drugs again, and she's lying and manipulating. She's also choosing a doctor all the way 2 hours away that only agrees with her, that's writing a book. This is Dr. Bloom. Now, I liked him as a child. He was nice, but I didn't realize that agreeing with my mother all the time and trying to let go all this would be a horrible idea. But that's exactly what I did for 4 years. I decided to listen to them, and I just ignored all this. I ignored the overdose. I ignored the neurological disorder. I ignored the fact I was bumping into stuff, all because Dr. Rosenblum decided it was a good idea to try to just ignore all this. He said, just let it go. Just ignore all this stuff your mother's doing to you. So I did. I tried to ignore that my mother was beating me with a sharp ruler. I tried to ignore that she was drinking all the time. I tried to ignore that she was trying to give me all these pills and lying to doctors. But anyway, she continues to try to get more and more pills put into me, which she succeeds. Now, she doctor shops to get this result. If one doctor tells her no, then she brings them to another doctor and another doctor. Even if she has to drive 3 hours once a month to get these pills, she will do it. She will find a doctor that agrees with her and will do whatever she wants. Because she's some doctor nurse. She loves playing doctor. She is a doctor, she thinks. My mother thinks she's some doctor, so she can do whatever she feels like. And this is exactly what she continues. Another bad choice. Now she's brainwashing me too. She's bringing me out to dinners and telling me on these dinners, you need to take meds for life. You need to take meds for life. Don't ever stop taking pills. You got to take pills for life. On top of this, when I'm just by myself with my mother and we go to the doctors and I answer the doctor's questions just honest, straight from the get-go, like just honest, straight, my mother gets angry on the ride home. Very angry. Meanwhile, if I listen to my mother, because my mother always used to prepare me, say this, say this. You're going to tell him you're depressed. You got to tell him that you hear voices. You got to, but I don't hear any voices. I don't care. You just tell him what I tell you to say. You got to tell him this, and you got to tell him that, and you got to tell him this. And if I did exactly as my mother said, then my mother rewarded me with McDonald's, Burger King, Chili's, whatever. I got rewarded if I repeated my mother's rhetoric, but if I told the truth to the doctor, oh boy, did I get a big, violent mother. So, that's not really good. That's a bad choice of my mother. She's trying to manipulate her child's brain and trying to brainwash me into believing stuff that isn't true. On top of this, my mother also used to try to make up stories. Like one time I was playing with action figures. Now, this was never established, thank God. So, think about this for a second. Most of the time, I had to jump. My mother said, do this, and I had to do it. I had no choice. It was either do it, or boy, was I going to be made more crippled. Oh, there would be more drugs, there would be more rulers, there would be more smacking. She would get more violent, and she would drink more. So I always had to go along with her rhetoric. But there was one time I did not go along with it, and thank God I didn't, because I would have still been getting hurt today if I went along with it. So I was playing with action figures going, boom, 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 jump off the bridge, woo, oh, get the machine gun, bang. Okay, we got to go over. We got to try to save this person. We got to try to save the princess. Okay, so I'm playing with G.I. Joe big action figures like that. My mother comes over, I'm sitting on the ground, and my mother goes, I need you to tell the doctor that you're schizophrenic. I say, huh? What? She goes, yeah, I need you to tell the doctor you hear voices and you're schizophrenic. I say, no. My mother gets mad. What? When I say jump, you jump. And I say, no, my mom, I have a kid across the hall that's schizophrenic. They hear voices in their head. I'm playing with action figures. I don't hear no voices. My mom goes, oh, yeah, you're playing with action figures and you're making them make voices. That's what schizophrenic is. Were you playing with action figures here and making them make voices? That is schizophrenia. So you need to tell the doctor that you hear voices and that you're schizophrenic. And I go, Mom, I'm just playing with action figures. I have a kid across the hall that is schizophrenic in the program. He hears voices in his head. It's very different. I know because I talked to him. He's a good friend of mine. Mike isn't a bad kid. There's Mike, and then there's Nick, and there's a bunch of kids here. I know. And then my mother goes, how dare you? No, no, no. You need to tell the doctor. And then I realize my mother's getting into her drunk, violent rage state again, where she usually hits me. So I get up out of the carpet, and I start trying to get away from her to go to my room. She follows me through the kitchen. I go through this little hallway to get to the staircase. My mother's following me. Now we're at the bottom of the staircase, and my mother says, I need schizophrenic medication. I want the schizophrenic medication. You are schizophrenic. You need to tell the doctor that you are schizophrenic, and you need schizophrenic medication. You need to tell the doctor this. And I say, Mom, it's not true. That's a lie. Stop acting crazy. Stop acting crazy. Stop acting like a crazy bitch. Then she smacks the shit out of me, and I go upstairs. Now, do you know what would have happened if I went along with my mother's mental illness that day? I would have been put on lots of drugs that would have fucked up my head for life. My mother wanted Zyprexa again. She wanted to drug this shit out of me with something close to like Zyprexa, even though it was not needed. But if my mother brought me into the doctor's office and I repeated what my mother told me to say, and then my mother ranted on one of her schizophrenic rant bullshit like she did with the depression, like she did with the bipolar, like she did with the overdose, like she did with every other illness that she tried to cover up with a mental illness, then I would have been really, really hurt for life, just like I am now. But even more so, I might have never been able to get better. But luckily that day, I knew better, I knew the truth, and I didn't go along with lies or rhetoric. But this is the sad part. I did before. When my mother tried to make me out to be bipolar because she was giving me lots of downers, I was naturally hyper. I'm always up and hyper. That's always the case. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm always up. But what they don't know is my mother's giving me downers all the time. She's sneaking them in even when I'm not prescribed downers. She's giving me all different types of downers. So I'm going up naturally. Then my mother gives me a downer and I go down. Then I go up naturally, my mother gives me more pills. So with that, my mother was able to lie to doctors and establish a fake mental illness. So my mother kept on doing this. Not only that, she tried to get me on 3 depressants. And then when I started saying I felt down or maybe a little depressed, she tried to make it seem like a lifelong illness, even though it started when I started taking multiple depressants. But my mother wasn't discussing side effects with the doctors. They weren't discussing the migraines that were sending me to the emergency room. She wasn't discussing the overdose at age 7. She wasn't discussing the coordination issue that I was bumping in the stuff. She wasn't discussing the numbness in my hands and feet or anything like this. Instead, she wanted to make everything seem like self-harming. Oh, I'm a fire starter. I'm a serial killer. I'm a self-harmer. I'm suicidal. I'm depressed. I'm schizophrenic. I'm whatever else she can come up with on the top of her head. Well, this is why I'm suffering today. That is a choice my mother made. She